Barring a catastrophic injury, we expect the career of a star professional athlete to follow a certain arc. Typically, that arc has a clear beginning, middle, and clear end. But sometimes, something happens which alters the course of that arc forever.
And here is Ricky Williams running inside, walks in for the touchdown.
We can't always put our finger on what exactly caused the alteration, but regardless, the player's career completely craters. From the height of the arc, they come crashing on down. So, let's take a look at 10 NFL players who were destined for stardom, but instead saw their careers fall like meteorites. Ezekiel Elliott, running back. Ezekiel Elliott's career autobiography should be titled A Tale of Two Careers. It was the best of times, and it was the worst of times. The best, Elliott was the 4th overall pick by the Cowboys in the 2016 draft and immediately took over the starting running back role in Dallas. In that rookie year, he rushed for 1,631 yards on 322 carries. Both led the league and added 15 rushing touchdowns. He was awarded the Sporting News Rookie of the Year, made the Pro Bowl, and was an All-Pro. Elliott was limited to 10 games his sophomore season, but still put up modest numbers. He exceeded the 1,300 rushing yard mark in 2018-2019, once again leading the league in 2018. The worst? Well, after his first 6 years in Dallas, in which Elliott rushed for 7,386 yards with 56 touchdowns, the overused back began to show some wear and tear. In his 7th season, he rushed for what at the time was a career low of 876 yards. Seeing the signs, the Cowboys released Elliott after the 2022 season, and he played a disappointing season with New England in 2023. However, by that point, his effectiveness was essentially nothing. Elliott was out of the league after 2024, but he remains a perfect example of a player who simply stopped being effective almost immediately. Le'Veon Bell, running back. What the heck happened to Le'Veon Bell? The running back out of Michigan State seemed like a future star when he was drafted in 2013, and his first 5 years in the league backed that up. From 2013 through 2017, Bell carved up opposing defenses out of the Pittsburgh backfield. In that span, the star back amassed 5,336 rushing yards with 35 touchdowns, 2,660 receiving yards with 7 touchdowns, was a 3-time Pro Bowl selection, and a 2-time All-Pro. In 2018, when the Steelers placed the franchise tag on Bell for the second time, he decided to sit out the season. That may have been one of his biggest mistakes, as his skills were clearly impacted by the time off. Bell signed a 4-year, $52.5 million deal with the Jets in the 2019 offseason, but it was clear from the very first game in New York that he was not the same. Bell's struggles were so apparent that the Jets released him halfway through the 2020 season, wrapping up his time in New York after a year and a half. From there, Bell's last 2 seasons saw him spend time in Kansas City, Baltimore, and Tampa before ultimately deciding to retire. His post-Pittsburgh stat line was an incredibly modest 1,218 rushing yards with 7 touchdowns and passing statistics not even worth mentioning. When it comes to Le'Veon Bell, it's obvious that he became washed up because, his skills eroded during that holdout, thus ending a once promising career. DeMarco Murray, running back. Are you starting to notice a trend with running backs in our list? Because I am. DeMarco Murray was a 3-time Pro Bowl selection, an All-Pro, the 2014 AP Offensive Player of the Year, a 3-time 1,000-yard rusher, including a league-leading 1,845 rushing yards in 2014, and a total of 6,515 rushing yards with 43 touchdowns. Not too bad for his first 6 years in the NFL. The 2017 season, Murray's 7th in the league, saw him rush for a career-low 659 yards. That dip surprised many, especially considering that Murray rushed for 1,287 yards the year before. Regardless, it was becoming apparent that his game was aging and that the Titans were ready to move on, as they were ready to replace him with the younger and more effective Derrick Henry. Murray was only 30 years old at the time and a free agent, but in March of 2018, he retired. Could he have continued? Probably. Was there still life left in his legs? Maybe. But clearly, he saw the decline in play during his final year as a member of the Tennessee Titans. Injuries, abuse from being an NFL running back, and the inevitability that comes along with all of that led DeMarco Murray to walk away from the game before being humbled by it. Honestly, a noble choice. But hey, it still earns him a spot on this list. Albert Haynesworth, defensive tackle. When one is considered to be among the worst NFL free agent signings in history, Well, there has to be some type of historic collapse associated with their tenure. Prior to signing a massive free agent deal with Washington in 2009, Albert Haynesworth built a resume that included being an anchor of Tennessee's front line and one of the most feared defensive linemen in the league. Despite his feared reputation, or heck, perhaps inspired by it, Haynesworth was not without his issues. During the 2006 season, he was issued a 5-game suspension for stomping on the unhelmeted head of an opposing player. He then returned to have his 2 most successful seasons in 2007 and 2008, earning Pro Bowl berths and being named an All-Pro both years. When free agency hit after the 2008 season, the defensive tackle was ready to cash in. And he did. Haynesworth signed a 7-year, $100 million contract with Washington. And this marriage, oh boy, was it a disaster from the jump. Almost immediately, Haynesworth exhibited diva-like behavior. He fought with the Washington coaches, showed up out of shape, failed conditioning requirements, and quit on the field in the middle of plays. Honestly, it was almost a relief when Washington suspended him for the last 4 games of 2010. But by that point, the relationship was irreparably damaged and Haynesworth was traded to New England. Once he was signed to a large contract, the on-field play of Albert Haynesworth fell off a cliff. Carson Wentz, quarterback. Carson Wentz's career was like a house built on a fault line. The Eagles couldn't have asked for a better start to the first 4 years of Wentz's career. He surpassed 3,000 yards passing all 4 years, including 4,039 yards in 2019, was an MVP candidate, and won a Super Bowl. Things were good, and the Eagles decided to build around him. But 2020 saw a few tremors as the quarterback's play began to decline. Wentz only threw for 2,620 yards and led the league with 15 interceptions. Philadelphia, sensing something was wrong, was right to sell their property on the fault line and traded Wentz to the Colts for 2 draft picks, a first and a third. Wentz had a rebound year in Indianapolis, but the Colts decided an upgrade was preferable to a rehab and moved the quarterback to Washington. Once in DC, the tremors turned into a full-blown earthquake as Wentz completely bottomed out. Due to injuries and inconsistency, he only started 7 games for Washington before being released by them. Wentz spent his final 3 seasons in the NFL as a backup quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams, Kansas City Chiefs, and Minnesota Vikings, appearing in only 10 games from 2023 to 2025. Carson Wentz went from being a franchise quarterback to journeyman backup almost overnight, thus becoming another worthy entry on our list. Maurice Jones-Drew, running back. You know, it's been a while since we've discussed a running back on our list, so how about we examine one? Next up, Maurice Jones-Drew, the 2nd-round draft pick by Jacksonville in 2006. Jones-Drew took a few years in the NFL before reaching his true potential, and when he finally did, after a meteoric 3 seasons, he crashed back to earth hard. The UCLA product hovered near 1,000 yards rushing for each of his first 3 seasons of his career. Year 4 saw him fall just short of 1,400 yards. He missed 2 games for over 1,300 yards. Then, in 2011, the then 26-year-old back rushed for a league-leading 1,606 yards, and coming off that successful year, he did what typically comes next: hold out for a new contract. Jones-Drew's holdout in 2012 led to injuries and a lack of production when he finally did return to the field. After 8 years with the Jaguars, he signed a free agent deal with the Oakland Raiders in 2014. Despite signing a contract for 3 years, he would go on to only play 1 game in Oakland. Injuries and a decline in production drove Jones-Drew out of the game after only 1 year with the Raiders. Like many others, the drop-off in his production level declined at an alarming rate. But hey, that's just sort of the deal with running backs, I guess. Vontae Davis, defensive back. The Miami Dolphins drafted Vontae Davis out of Illinois in the 1st round of the 2009 draft. Davis came out of college highly rated, as he was ranked as the 3rd best cornerback in his draft class, and he was starting in Miami's secondary by the middle of his rookie year. Davis would remain a starter for the Dolphins for his first 3 years, but after losing his starting role before the 2012 season, he was traded to the Colts. He would go on to spend 6 years in Indianapolis, where he earned his only 2 Pro Bowl selections. The 2018 season saw the Pro Bowl cornerback sign a 1-year deal with the Buffalo Bills. Davis didn't play in Week 1, but in Week 2, he shocked the sports world. After giving up a touchdown to the Chargers, Davis removed himself from the game while it was still being played and retired from the NFL. After the game, Vontae Davis stated, "Reality hit me fast and hard. I shouldn't be out there anymore." I don't know, if retiring abruptly at halftime of a game doesn't constitute becoming, in the broadest sense of the word possible, washed up overnight, then I mean, I really don't know what does. Todd Gurley, running back. I think it's time for another running back, don't you? For a brief period of time, from 2015 through 2018, Todd Gurley was considered one of the best running backs in the National Football League. Drafted by the Rams with the 10th pick in 2015, Gurley immediately crossed the 1,000-yard rushing mark in 3 of his 4 seasons. His 4,547 rushing yards over his first 4 years showed the football world that the Rams had a budding star running back on their hands. He also led the league in rushing touchdowns in 2017 and 2018. In addition to being a great runner, Gurley was also pretty good at catching the ball at the backfield, as evidenced by his 788 receiving yards in 2017. But something happened in the 2019 season. Gurley was not the same back that he had been in his first 4 years. Something was wrong. Most likely, it was lingering issues with his knee from the injury that he sustained in the previous year's run to the Super Bowl. Perhaps his injury was one of the reasons that the Rams lost. Regardless, at the conclusion of the season, the Rams, in a bid to save money, cut Gurley. In April of 2020, he signed a 1-year deal with the Falcons. He suited up in 15 games for Atlanta, but only managed to rush for 678 yards and retired after the season. Todd Gurley was great, but his career simply ended way too quickly. Josh Gordon, wide receiver. Josh Gordon's demons first appeared in college when he was suspended indefinitely by Baylor University for drug use. Despite said issues, the Browns selected Gordon in the second round of that year's supplemental draft. He flashed potential in his rookie season, but the next year truly showed his Jekyll and Hyde persona. He missed the first 2 games of the 2013 season due to substance issues, but rebounded over the final 14 games of the season to finish with 1,646 receiving yards, a Pro Bowl selection, and being named an All-Pro. And it looked like the Browns had a star in the making. However, things took a turn for the worse starting the next season. Gordon was suspended for the first 10 games of the 2014 season. He returned for the final 5, but was once again suspended for violating the league's substance abuse policy. This suspension would last a whole lot longer than the last one. Due to multiple violations of the policy and failed drug tests, Gordon would miss the entire 2015 season, 2016 season, and all but the last 5 games of the 2017 season. Gordon was traded to New England the following year, but was suspended once again. Over his final 3 seasons, spread out over 4 calendar years, the wide receiver bounced between 4 teams: the Patriots, Seahawks, Chiefs, and Titans. He was a shell of the receiver who caught 1,646 yards. Gordon became washed up due to personal issues, but he is undoubtedly a textbook story of what could have been. Ricky Williams, running back. We started with a running back, so let's finish with one. Ricky Williams was a great running back, absolutely dominant for the first 5 years of his career, and then it all went up in smoke. Williams spent the first 3 years of his career in New Orleans, where he broke the 1,000-yard rushing barrier twice. Prior to the 2002 season, Williams was traded to Miami, where he immediately led the league with 1,853 rushing yards and a Pro Bowl berth. The star back followed that up by rushing for 1,372 yards and a league-leading 392 carries. Williams was among the best running backs in the league. And then, right before the start of the 2004 season, he retired. Apparently, he chose to retire rather than face a 4-game suspension for failing a drug test for marijuana. After sitting out 2004, Williams returned to Miami for the 2005 season. He did serve his 4-game suspension, before missing the 2006 season where he was suspended again. Williams returned for 1 game in 2007 before going on to suit up in all 16 games from 2008 to 2011. Although he was no longer a starter, he managed to once again break the 1,000-yard rushing mark in 2009. Williams' decision to explore other outside interests during his playing days contributed to his career fading far too soon. But what other NFL players were washed up overnight? Were there any notable examples we may have missed? Let us know in the comments section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, then hey, clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea, because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.